Well, hello, and welcome back to another math lesson with Terry Dabbit. Today we're going to learn about x and y intercepts. Yes, these are the x and y intercepts that are on your coordinate plane, on your x and y axis. Okay, first let's begin with locating intercepts visually by looking at the graph. First of all, we need to know how we write our ordered pairs. So if a line crosses the x-axis, it will have an ordered pair with a number first and then a 0. If it crosses the y-axis, it will have an ordered pair with 0 in the x spot and then the number for the y. So by looking at these graphs here, we can locate where they are crossing the axis, and you'll see here where they cross the axis, wherever they cross the x and y axis. So for number 1, our x-intercept, remember our pattern. If we're doing the x-intercept, we will have the x value first. That crosses at -4, and then you have a 0 in the y spot. For the y-intercept, we have a 0 in the x, and it crosses at -6 on the y. Number 2, we have x-intercepts, 2 x-intercepts here, and we have 1 y-intercept. So yes, you can have 2 intercepts. Actually, you can have no intercepts. That is possible. This one crosses at -2 and 0, also crosses at 2 and 0. On our y-intercept, crosses at 0, -3. Number 3, our axis intercepts right in the middle. So we have an x-intercept of 0, 0, and we also have a y-intercept of 0, 0. Number 4, I see where we cross an axis right here. That is our y-axis. So our x-intercept, this line never crosses the x-axis, so the answer is none. It doesn't have one. The y-intercept crosses at 0, 3. Number 5, we have 1, 2 intercepts on the x, and we have 2 intercepts on the y. So there will be 2 each on the circle. Our x's were at -1 and also at 5. And our y-intercepts at 0, 2, and also at 0, -2. So that is how you find x and y intercepts visually by looking at the graph. You just see where they cross the axis. We will move next to finding x and y intercepts mathematically. Okay, next we will be finding x and y intercepts mathematically. You will see in the box your formula. To find the x-intercept, we are going to let y equal 0, and then we will solve for x. To find the y-intercept, we will let x equal 0 and solve for y. So number 1, we are looking for our x-intercept, and it tells us to let y equal 0. So I write the equation, but in place of y, I put 0. And then I solve the equation, 0 here, and we get that x is equal to 1 1/4. So our x-intercept is 1 1/4, and 0. So our y-intercept, in place of the x, we put a 0 and solve for y. So we have our y-intercept of 0, 5. Now let's say that we have to graph this. If it asks you to graph it by the y-intercepts, or how do you graph a line if it's written in standard form? Once you find your intercepts, you go to them. I have a graph here. So our x-intercept was at 1 1/4. So we put a dot at 1 1/4, and then our y-intercept was at positive 5. And then once you have your two dots, you draw your line. And we now have graphed the equation of the line. Number 2, to find our x-intercept, we will put 0 in for y, and then we will solve for x. 0 cancels out, and we have that x is equal to 1. So therefore, our point is 1, 0. On the y-intercept, I set x equal to 0 and solve for y. So y equals -1, so my y-intercept is 0, -1. And then I would go put my dots on the x-intercept and the y-intercept, connect them, and then we have graphed our line. Number 3, for our x-intercept, we plug in 0 for y. I have that x is equal to 8. Therefore, my x-intercept is 8, 0. For my y-intercept, I put 0 in place of x. Solve for y. And I have that my y-intercept is 0, 2. Number 4, for our x-intercept, we will substitute 0 in for y and solve for x. So x is 2/5. So my x-intercept is 2/5, 0. And for my y-intercept, I will plug in 0 for x and then solve for y. We have y equal 2, therefore our y-intercept is 0, 2. There is a great game that you can play. There you have your URL here on the screen, so you can practice this on your game. Hope that you enjoyed the video. This is x and y intercepts from a graph, and also x and y intercepts solving mathematically. Hope you enjoyed.